Both of these guys had to be removed from where they were living in a big hurry. And they were small and adorable, and it was a no-brainer that I wanted them, but I wanted to know what the city had to say about it. So I did as much deep research as I could online by making phone calls and talking to people. And I spent a couple weeks trying to find a code that would be applicable to this area, and I couldn't find a thing. I don't know if I just missed it, or if it was down, or if it didn't exist. People encouraged me, other people who had donkeys in the area encouraged me that it was fine as long as you didn't have more than 3 animals. So I went ahead and built the barn out of scrap wood, dug my very first fence post, put up a fence, got to know as much as I could about their health, and brought them home. The tourists stop, hop out of their cars, call their significant others, take selfies, put it on Instagram. The tourists go nuts over these animals. And the main reason I got them is because they're part of BISBEE'S history. They carried canvas sacks of water from the wells and the springs to everyone's homes. They also carried building materials. They're how every house was built here. My goal is to get them out to as wild a place as possible every single day and let them go off leash for a couple of hours. Right now we're just going to head up to my upper half acre. These are the first pets I've ever had. I got them when I was 54 because I never had even a dog or cat. I will sell my house if I have to get them to a place where it is going to be zoned in the future to have them, because otherwise I don't want to invest in fencing or even more land within BISBEE if it's not going to be a place where I can keep them. They live 30 to 40 years. So much of this depends on my neighbors being super kind and understanding and knowing how much these animals mean to me, and they let us have rite of passage so that we can travel from my land up to BLM land, which we're going to do right now. Come on, guys. They don't want a lot of rich grass. They don't want a lot of produce. They want Bermuda grass. So people I've heard complain about crabgrass in this environment before should know that this is their #1 dietary requirement, to the point where they feel like they've made some difference in terms of being fire-wise. If you take a look at all street signs in BISBEE, at least in old BISBEE, off of Tombstone Canyon, every single street sign has a picture of a donkey at the end of it. They were the heart of this town. My house was built by the Moon family. They had a dairy up Moon Canyon. They built chicken coops here. I mean, I know times have changed, but we don't want times to change too much in BISBEE. We want to have a sense of place for people to come to and come back to.
How did this ordinance come up? Like, how did you come to know about the ordinance?
The animal ordinance. Animal ordinance first came to my attention because we were missing the portion that referred to leashes, the need to have your dog on a leash. So we took it to the city attorney with a recommendation to add that back into the ordinance. And when it came to the council for the first reading, there were other provisions of the ordinance that came to light that folks were not comfortable with. So it went back to the drawing board. And when it went back to the drawing board, it seemed that doing a wholesale look at the entire ordinance instead of trying to piecemeal the changes was a direction to move in.
People calling in and complaining?
There are folks who are uncomfortable living next to multiple fowl,
okay.
For example. Folks who are uncomfortable with roosters in their neighborhood. Folks who expressed to me that they didn't want to have cats returned to their neighborhood. And I've met with people, I've had coffee with folks, they've come to my office hour. So I am listening and trying to come to an ordinance that is balanced.
I keep my bees right by my door so I can be in contact with them all the time because they're nice to have next door. I had bees since I was a kid. They're hibernating. This time of the year they fly when it's 50 degrees or more. So they'll be out this weekend. But you know, today they're just in a tight cluster. And the queen is in the center. And they keep her at 80 degrees year round. And the ones on the outside constantly rotate to keep the temperature reasonable. I've had them here 20 years. And I have a hive out front which is defunct. So I'm ordering a new cluster which will come in a box this size in April. There will be 10,000 bees in here with a queen in a cage like this in the center. And I will then go ahead and dump this whole box of bees in there and hang this queen in the center. They will then accept her within a few days. She'll release herself. It's closed with a sugar cube. She'll release herself and be accepted after a few days. In the summer you can see bees coming in. Like you see those weeds flying, those thistles right now. And they're coming and going constantly. And they go 2-mile radius. So they get very little here. But they get a lot in the hills and all these domestic gardens. In Bisbee, they love that. So it says Harry's Honey Organic. It says Frontier Road, but I don't have those out there. I don't claim those hives anymore. Larry Milo made my label.
As you know, Bisbee's a historical town. There are donkeys, there are goats, there are chickens, there are bees, and
I know.
people are really upset about having that limited. So again, was that in the previous ordinance or was that in?
It was specific to swine.
Okay.
In the previous ordinance.
So, and now it's going to go to all?
Well, livestock as was defined. So that livestock would be cared for within a zone that allowed for livestock rather than in the residential district.
I wonder if Kitten's going to join us. Usually the cat comes along too. Come on, Betty. They seem to be fascinated by views. They love like looking out over. Sometimes I take them up to the bee hill and they just kind of look out across towards Mexico and they'll just sit there.